Good afternoon. My name is Angel, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and welcome back to Everyday I Do. I wanted to hop on really quickly and just cover a topic that we've heard a number of times, but hopefully adding just a different kind of a spin on it, and that is self-care. Now, we know what self-care is. We hear about it all the time in many different places, in many different ways, but what does that look like as a caregiver? And it's not always as easy as it sounds, right? And so I want to think about how that looks for many of us who maybe aren't able to get away as easily, maybe don't have the same kind of supports others might, because of the challenges and the complexities of the loved ones that we're caring for, be it again our spouses or our parents or our own children that we're caring for who have special needs. But I first want to start with a little bit of a story. I was at a grocery store recently, and I, just walking around doing my normal thing, and I noticed a parent in the grocery store, both hands occupied. One hand had a full grocery cart, one of the larger ones, to go grocery shopping, and then the other hand was on their child, I assume, who maybe looked to be 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there, in a wheelchair. And so she was pushing her son, I assume her son, in the wheelchair, and pushing the grocery cart in the other. And she didn't think anything of it. I could see from her face anyway. This looked to be her normal routine, something that she frequently, did. And I don't know her situation. Maybe she had a partner and he might have been off taking care of the other kids or on the way back from work. This was, right around the time after rush hour. But I thought to myself, as much as she's accustomed, and it seemed obvious because she was just on her routine to go and get whatever thing, she seemed focused, I'll say. But I thought to myself how helpful it would be, I would imagine, for her to have an extra hand. And yet all of us are so busy moving around her while she's going about her daily life and doing the things that she needs to do to grocery shop, pushing a large cart. If those of you who've pushed with young children, or just pushing a cart with both hands, and certainly when it's filled up with things, that the challenge that can be, it requires some effort. And then the other hand pushing, this young adult in the wheelchair. I imagine how helpful it would have been for her to have an extra hand or extra pair of hands. And in all of our lives, we have the busyness of everything that's going on. But what I got to thinking about was how common it must be for many of us in that position, where we are busy doing the things that are required of us, that seem like everyday normal things. Whether you're the parent taking care of a child who maybe gets tube feeding, the parent who has a child who has a learning disability and you're staying up extra hours to just help them stay on par. You're the spouse who has a loved one who has your partner, and you've got the alarm clock set because you've got to wake them up, and you're the one transporting them to their morning treatment for chemo, or you're bustling around early because you've got to take care of the kids while they go take care of their treatment, or you are the adult taking care of your more senior parent, and you're doing things that you'd imagine that they were doing for you when you were little, and now you're doing for them, taking care of their daily living needs, their grocery shopping, maybe helping them get dressed, maybe making sure that they're taking their medication, getting to their appointments. And we do all of these things just in the routine of life, not recognizing that they're kind of super duties. They're duties that we wouldn't ordinarily think that we would be doing for our parent, because the assumption is now they're in a place to be able to take care of themselves independently, or even a child who's past the age developmentally of needing help with getting dressed or grooming, or needing such close supervision while they're doing work because now they're able to read and write, or even helping a child, the example I gave earlier with feeding, because they're at an age developmentally where they can eat on their own, yet this child has special needs that require that additional intervention. And so for all of that, we don't take into account the super duties, the medical duties, the educational duties, the care coordination duties, case management duties that we're oftentimes left to perform in our very layman position, so to speak, being the daughter, being the son, being the the parent who maybe didn't go to medical school, doesn't have the nursing degree, and yet performing all those medical duties. And I wanted to first start off by saying, I see you. And although the woman pushing her son in the chair and the grocery cart, on the other hand, looked as though this was again just her regular duties, things that she was doing. But I think many times, a lot of us in our regular routine forget that we're doing things that are extraordinary and aren't typically what you would expect in a daily routine when you're taking care of your spouse, when you're loving your spouse, when you're supporting your parents, and when you are caring for your child who now has a particular special need. And many times in the routineness of life, we can sometimes feel lost in the routine and forget that what we're doing is very extraordinary. It is a duty, but it's a super duty, I like to say, with beyond the expectations that one would expect in caring for their loved one, all things being equal, without the particular special need. And for some of us, we can feel forgotten. We can feel like this is just something that's required of us, and we're going to do it because we love them. And so there's no hesitation, there's no thought. Someone has to go grocery shopping. Someone has to, ensure that my child makes it to school and is as successful as possible, has to ensure that my parent is able to get the needed medication that's required, and make sure that they're taking it appropriately. But we might not get the recognition in that way. And I just wanted to pop up here and say that you're seen, and what you're doing is amazing. And what you're doing isn't ordinary, it's extraordinary. And the way you're handling it, while it might seem routine, it might seem regular, it might seem what's to be expected, it isn't. And we know that because unfortunately there are those who maybe don't get the kind of care and the support in the routine from someone like you in the life of their loved one. And for that, our hearts go out to those individuals. But for those of us who can be that kind of support and resource to those that we love, I want to tell you that you are seen, and what you're doing is amazing. And it is beyond what you would expect a parent to do. It's extraordinary. The medical care that you're providing a lot of times, the information, the psychoeducation, if you have someone that you're caring for who has mental illness, the case management and the care coordination, the advocacy, all those roles that there are positions for that people get paid for, nursing duties that you're providing, and yet you're doing it all wrapped up into one. And it's not what's just to be expected. You do it out of love, but you do it to the best of your ability. And with that said, a lot of times we put ourselves on the back burner because there's so much that's coming at us in our day. And so it seems easy when some of us maybe hear from others that it's important to take care of yourself. And it is. And we know that. We all know that. I think many of us know that at an intellectual level. But it's how do you do that with the time and the space that you have, especially if you're somebody who's got a level that requires 24/7 care because of their medical needs or behavioral health needs. It's not as easy just to, okay, I'm going to take care of myself, but I'm exhausted. I don't have the time. I don't have the support. I don't have the respite. I don't know what the resources are. How do I even get started? I know I need to take care of myself. I want to take care of myself. It's not that I don't want to. It's I'm the parent who's pushing my one child, with one hand in the wheelchair and the other hand on the grocery cart, and I can't let either one of them go. So what do I do? And I want to tell you. Please feel free to add on. These are just some ideas. I'd love to hear from the community and get your viewpoint. But these are some of the things that I have found to be helpful, both for myself being a parent. I shared with you in previous videos, I have 2 children, and one of them has special needs. And so I am as much as an instrument hoping to give you what I know, but am also a student. And so I would love to learn from the other teachers in the community. So comment below, let me know if there's things that I haven't covered that you have found to be helpful, that are very accessible. And so my hope is that these are accessible resources in the face of maybe lacking resources, not having the support. There are some of us who have a great support system, and some, let's be honest, there's just, it's difficult. Maybe you have a big family, but there's family members who feel uncomfortable with taking care and being that respite support for your loved one if needed in that way. So here are a few recommendations, and like I said, let me know what you think. Obviously, the first one is nutrition. And I won't go into all of the ways that you could do that because I am not a nutritionist. I would encourage you to research online, follow up with a nutritionist if you can, but just be thinking about ways that you can feed your body that in ways that give you the energy to do all the things that you have required of you throughout the day. And there's a lot of information on that. Like I said, I would encourage you to consult with your primary care physician or other appropriate professionals. But this is something that we all hear frequently, and it's challenging, I think, probably for most of us. And so, but especially if you are somebody who's taking care of a loved one, if you've got that responsibility, supporting somebody who has any kind of medical or special need, developmental need, that it's important for our own selves to be able to have that energy to continue to do the things that are required of us throughout the day. So with that said, again, I don't want to go into the specifics of it, but I want you to really be thinking about the ways that you can be focused on how you can feed your body for the sake of energy, because at the end of the day, a lot of times there's lethargy, and for some of us, that's appropriate because now it's time to get to bed. But what happens when it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon and there's still so many other things that have to get done, believe it or not, and I know you do, but there's things that you can, food that you can use to fuel your body, to help you in better ways to get the mindset and to get the physical energy that you need to complete your responsibilities, your obligations the best that you can. So I would just encourage you to continue to have those conversations with your physicians. It's not about losing weight. This is about getting fuel, getting energy, and being as healthy as you can for yourself and obviously for your loved one. Exercise, another one I'm not going to go into detail about, but just getting moving, just getting your body moving. There's so many benefits of that, and research it, but there's benefits to how it improves your mental health as well. So our own personal mental health also is, potentially at risk when you think about all the things that are required of us. And for those of you, depending on what needs that your loved one has, could be chronic, could be long-term, could be ongoing for an indefinite period of time. And so it's important, it is imperative for you to be able to take care of your own mental health. And so exercise is one of those ways that you can do that, but also physically, just keeping your body strong and healthy. If you're somebody who has to lift a loved one and support them because of their mobility challenges, it is going to be key for you to be able to keep your body as healthy and strong as possible. This is something that we cannot skip on, especially if you've got someone that's relying on our own physical strength to be able to help them with their daily living needs. So I would encourage you to put that one at the top of your list. Again, talk to your primary care physician, work with a nutritionist, talk to an exercise specialist, get into the gym, or just, research it online and see what are things that you can do to help yourself to remain physically healthy, active, and strong. Obvious one, getting sleep. A lot of information out on the benefits of sleep and just the body repair that happens when you're able to get a good night's rest, and consistently the improvements to your mood and your mental health. So finding ways that you can add more sleep. And this is a tough one because for some of us, we're doing everything that we need to do all day. For everybody else, and at the end of the day, it's our time. It's the only time that we have maybe to watch a few shows, or I've heard it interestingly called revenge sleep. I think that's how I heard it. But essentially, it was something that I heard that kind of happened around or after COVID, which is this concept where people were, not wanting to go to bed on time, or just wanting to stay up a little bit later, just because of the vast stress and the things that were required for them, and just managing the stressors around COVID and everything related. And so, and I might be getting some of this mixed up, so comment below, let me know, help me out. But essentially the idea is that you want the time for yourself, but you don't want it to be at the expense of being able to get sleep. So prioritizing your sleep will give you the mental health, the stamina, the mood, the physical strength, that mind and body repair that's required, all of us, that we need in order to stay our most healthy and strong selves. So figure out ways that you can, and if that means you get an extra 15 minutes because you're not staying up quite as late, you're getting up a little bit earlier so you can still do those things that you want to do for yourself. Maybe it's in the morning before everybody gets up so that you can get that time in when everybody's down, and then you're taking advantage. Find a way, essentially, is what I'm saying, because this is very important for all the other things I've just listed above in order to stay strong and healthy for the person that you're caring for. Other things like grounding, kind of centering yourself, being present, thinking about where you are in the space, on the earth, where you are. There's deep breathing exercises, all kind of research out there on the benefits of deep breathing, and how it improves your mood, how it relieves anxiety, helps to relieve anxiety and stressors. So these are just, again, there's a lot of different ways to care for yourself, but I'm trying to figure out ways or I want to give you ways rather, that are accessible and that cost the least amount, right? Things that are self-directed. So, and require nothing more than maybe just researching and getting some information online and talking to your doctor. So some deep breathing, grounding work, and there's a lot of other types of things that you can do, whether journaling is another thing that you can do to kind of just take a beat and just be thinking about where you are emotionally, and you can get creative. Journaling isn't just writing. For some of you, the idea of writing sounds like homework, and so for you it might just be crafting, being creative, giving yourself that space that energizes you. It might be reading a book. These are all inexpensive ways and accessible things that you can do to plug into your schedule. So those are some other things. Let's see. You can, this is a big one, ask for help. This is a big one, and I too struggle with this. If I need help, and I do, there are plenty of times where I could use some help. For those of you I shared in previous video, I have a child who's in a wheelchair, and so he's a teenager, he's a big boy, and I lift him, and the things I'm giving you, I really try to use for myself. The exercise, I really try to get the sleep. I've been known for revenge sleeping, and just kind of wanting to wait until the very last end of the day to get as much time for myself, at sometimes the expense of sleep. But all of that starts to erode it, your mental, your emotional, your physical strength, that added lethargy. And so there are times where it would be great, many times where it'd be great to have an extra pair of hands. I would say, fortunately, there are sometimes people passing by who say, "Can I help you?" And I'm guilty of it. I might say, "I've got it," or he might actually already be in my hands. And so to stop and then let someone help would actually be a lot more effort. But there are definitely times where I just say yes. And I would add to that asking for help. So instead of waiting for people, instead of the assumption, well, I've got to do it myself, looking at your environment and just stopping and asking people, can I get your help? Would you mind opening the door? Would you mind grabbing this thing? Would you mind helping me get X, Y, or Z out of the vehicle? Would you mind go getting X, Y, and Z for help? And it's a challenging one because for many of us, we talked about the expectation that we place upon ourselves that, well, no one else is doing it, or I have limited support or resources, and we just become accustomed to doing it. We don't even think about the potential for resources and help. But I want to encourage you that as amazing as you're doing a job, and you really are, if you're a caregiver and you're going above and beyond, and I do mean above in the sense that you're doing things that are outside of what we would anticipate in a typically developed relationship, be it spouse or parent or adult child, you are doing above and beyond. And that is amazing. But as much as you are helping your loved one, you also deserve help. And sometimes that happens when you ask for help. And so I want to encourage you to really practice that. It's not going to come easy for many of us or natural. We're not even going to be thinking about it, but I want you to have that in your mind that when you're out, just for the sake of practice, starting for the small things. Sir, would you mind going to get X, Y, and Z for me? Would you mind going getting this individual? Would you mind grabbing this for me? Would you mind opening the door for me? And you would be surprised that when you do that, how that then begins to draw out other types of resources and connections that were sometimes right underneath their nose. So try that one. Let me know how that works when you do it. I've done it as well, and it's a tough one for me. So let me know how it is for you asking for help as well. All right, building your support system. If you are one of those families that maybe have limited support, have limited family support, asking for help is going to be a helpful thing, but then building your network. Maybe you're going to have to join a group. Maybe asking friends, do they know anybody in a similar situation? Going online and joining online support resources, contacting organizations that are related to your loved one's condition and getting involved in their listserv, seeing what's available, seeing what charitable or fundraiser events or community awareness events or walks, things that you can be a part of either online or in person so that you can start to build that network. It's going to require you to do that cultivation. And yes, that might mean extra effort, but again, it's a spectrum. You find what's going to work for you. It might be online, and you might decide, you know what, I can take my loved one with me. We can go together and we can support one another through this cause, this condition, through the organization, and be inspired and meet other people who are in similar settings, and then find out about other resources locally that maybe you didn't even know existed because of the web of people that you've kind of connected to and resources. So building your support system is going to be key and important to being able to add to that resource of self-care available to you. And then other alternative kinds of approaches like acupuncture, if you can afford that, if you can do that, or massage therapy, massage therapy, or this kind of other alternate treatments, consulting with occupational therapy, if there's other ways to do the things that you're doing to care for your loved one. And then last but not least, going to see a therapist. And therapy can look many different ways. It could be equine, in nature. It can be traditional psychodynamic therapy. Um, I would encourage, it might be art therapy is another way in which you can, explore your emotions and really get in touch with your mental health and really process things that are maybe challenges, the joys, but maybe sometimes even barriers to living more of the life that you want um, in the face of the extraordinary circumstances that's before you. So I would encourage you to research to see what other types of therapies are available. Consult with a therapy, consult with your primary care doctor to rule out medical. I always love that. If you're finding that there are any mental health challenges, and you get to be the judge of that. And I always tell people you get to decide what that looks like. Any stress or emotional distress or strain that you determine to be uncomfortable. At any point, you can decide to seek mental health services. And I find that, me personally, I just think there's no wrong door, whether you start with a therapist or start with a physician, or you're in a situation where you need immediate mental health, and you can always go to your local emergency room for mental health services and for them to triage if that's where you are. But what I would encourage us all is really to kind of look at the spectrum of what's available for us and think about how we can tap into resources that are accessible, that might not be the vacation that we've always wanted, although don't put it off. Don't put it in the back. Keep it as a goal. But it might not be something that can happen today, this week, this month. And yet the requirement is still upon us to take care of ourselves, though it may not look like the way we want to. I know that for myself, I love to sneak away in my car. And I sit there and I can get away, and it feels like I'm in a greenhouse somewhere, and I'm looking out into the beautiful green pastures and land. It really is just my front yard and my neighbor's yard, that I have an active imagination. So if that's you, I would encourage you to try that. Just finding the things that work for you. If it's going and taking a shower and lighting a candle and just giving yourself maybe extra 10 or 15 minutes in there, or your bath, to just get away. There are things that we can do to take care of ourselves. And it is important for us to do that because we deserve that. We're doing an amazing job. We're doing the best job that we can do. And we deserve to get the support as much as we're giving it to others. I see you, and I want to just encourage you to continue doing the great job that you're doing. Keep up the good work. I hope these resources have been helpful. If you have any ideas, comment below. Let me know. I'd love to hear what's working for you. I think our community would love to hear and see how everybody else is doing it, how they're taking care of themselves in the face of some pretty extraordinary circumstances, but you're not alone. I see you, and I thank you for joining us today. Let me know if you have any questions, anything you'd like me to cover that we haven't. I have tons of topics that are ahead of us, but I'd love to hear your feedback and would love to talk about it. Hope to talk to you in the comments. Enjoy your day. Bye.